There are moments in life that shake us, not with noise, but with silence. Moments when a loved one's voice gets softer, when their habits shift, when the sparkle behind their eyes begins to dim, not from sadness, but from something quieter, something final. And yet, no one talks about it. No one says the truth out loud. Because even in old age, we avoid the one topic that deserves our fullest attention. Death. Not the dramatic kind, not the kind you see in movies, but the real kind, slow, subtle, almost invisible if you're not paying attention. This video is not meant to scare you. It's meant to prepare you. Because when you're over 60, or when someone you love is, there comes a time when you feel something shift, and you wonder, are we in the final chapter? Is this the beginning of the end? And the hardest part is, no one tells you what to look for. Doctors don't always say it. Family doesn't want to believe it. And most of us don't know how to ask. But those signs are there. Soft, quiet, persistent. And if we learn to see them, not only can we prepare ourselves, we can also make these final months sacred. This isn't just a video about warning signs. This is a conversation about what really matters when time is running short. Because when we know the signs, we stop wasting moments. We start having the conversations that count. We start honoring the person, not just managing the symptoms. Before we begin, I want to speak directly to you, the one watching. Whether you're facing your own aging or walking alongside someone who is. This space is for you. It's a place where we tell the truth about growing old, where we face fear with grace, where we trade denial for dignity. If you value honest, courageous conversations about aging, grief, and legacy, subscribe to this channel now. Don't wait. We are building a community of elders, caregivers, and truth-tellers who believe that the final years of life deserve more care, not less. And like this video if any part of this hits close to home. Because these messages don't just belong to you. They belong to someone else who's quietly watching and waiting for permission to feel what they're feeling. Now let's talk about the signs. You won't hear them in hospital corridors. You won't read them on discharge papers. But the body, the mind, the spirit, they all speak. And if you listen closely enough, you'll start to recognize what most people miss until it's too late. Let me ask you something. Have you noticed subtle changes in someone you love? Changes you can't explain, but that feel different than before? Have you ever wondered if you were witnessing more than just old age? If so, stay with me. Because this video is not about predicting death. It's about honoring life while there's still time to do it right. And if you've been through this before, if you've already said goodbye to someone in their final year and saw the signs only in hindsight, leave a comment below. I saw it too. Your words might help someone else trust their instincts before regret takes root. We're going to begin with one of the earliest, most overlooked signs, a signal that something inside is starting to turn inward. Not because they've given up, but because they know, even if they haven't said it, that something is changing. Let's begin. The first sign that an elderly person may be in their final year is not always medical. It's not a diagnosis. It's not a lab result. It's something far more human and far easier to miss. They begin to withdraw. Not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly, quietly, like a tide pulling back from the shore. They stop answering the phone as often. They decline invitations they used to accept. They sit longer in silence. They begin to look past the moment they're in, like they're listening to something no one else can hear. And it's easy to brush off at first. You might say, she's just tired. He's just not feeling well today. They probably just need rest. But this kind of withdrawal is different. It's not physical fatigue. It's emotional detachment, a quiet turning inward. They begin letting go of things they used to care about. The garden goes unwatered. The bills pile up unopened. The favorite TV show gets turned off halfway through. They stop making plans. Stop checking the calendar. Stop asking about what's next. Not out of sadness, not always from depression, but because, deep down, they feel it. They may not say it, but something inside them knows. The timeline has changed. And here's what makes this sign so difficult. They're not crying. They're not asking for help. They're simply stepping back. Like a gentle retreat from the noise of the world. Not in fear, but in quiet preparation. And if we're not careful, we miss it. We call it moodiness. We chalk it up to aging. We say, they just need a little motivation. But what they may need most isn't more stimulation. It's permission to slow down. It's space to process what they feel. It's someone who notices the silence and doesn't try to fill it with noise. Let me ask you, has someone you love recently become quieter, more still, less interested in what used to light them up? Have they started pulling away from conversations, from routines, from their usual way of engaging with the world? If so, this may be more than fatigue. This may be their body and spirit doing what many do in the final stages of life, turning inward before letting go. And if you're the one who's feeling this way yourself, if you've stopped caring about what day it is or what the world expects of you, please know, you're not broken. You're not giving up. You may simply be entering a season of preparation, and that deserves to be honored, not rushed, not fixed, not dismissed. If you've witnessed this kind of withdrawal in yourself or someone close to you, share it in the comments with the words, "I've seen the quiet retreat." Because sometimes, it's not the tears or the pain that signals the end. It's the soft, slow stepping back that no one knows how to name. And if this part of the video spoke to something you've been carrying, a moment you've noticed but couldn't explain, like the video now. Because when we speak these truths, we give others the courage to see what they've been afraid to face. And if you haven't yet, subscribe. Because this isn't the last sign, and the next one might be happening in someone you love right now. A physical change, yes, but one with emotional meaning beneath it. Stay with me. We're just beginning to uncover what the body says when words fall away. There's a change that often goes unnoticed in its early stages. A skipped snack here, half a plate left untouched there, a forgotten cup of water on the table. And then, one day you realize, they're not eating like they used to. They're not drinking like they used to. This isn't about dieting. This isn't about preferences. This is something deeper, something primal. Something that happens quietly as the body begins to prepare itself for rest, not renewal. One of the most consistent signs that a person may be entering their final year is a persistent loss of appetite and thirst. Not due to illness, not because they're nauseous or in pain, but because the body, at a cellular level, begins to turn inward. It no longer craves fuel in the same way. Digestion slows, metabolic demand drops, and the desire to eat simply fades. You might hear things like, "I'm just not hungry. Everything tastes the same. Water doesn't sit well anymore. I'll eat later." But later keeps slipping further and further away. Let me be clear. This doesn't mean you should panic the moment someone skips a meal. Loss of appetite happens for many reasons. But when it becomes consistent, when it's paired with weight loss, fatigue, and detachment, it's a sign the body is beginning its natural process of slowing down. Not just for a season, but for the end. And this can be one of the most heartbreaking signs to witness. Because feeding someone is love. Offering food is connection. And when they refuse it, again and again, you begin to feel helpless. You may try everything. Their favorite meal, smaller portions, soft foods, nutritional shakes, and still, they push the plate away. And it's not always about taste. It's not about stubbornness. It's about release. The body knows what the mind often denies. It knows that energy is shifting inward, that digestion takes more than it gives, and that what it really needs is comfort, not calories. Let me ask you something painful, but important. Have you watched someone close to you begin to eat less, drink less, and respond with indifference when you ask why? If you have, you know the ache that comes with every untouched forkful. You know what it's like to sit across from someone you love, holding a spoon, fighting back tears, pretending this is just another day. It's not. And the sooner we name it, the more lovingly we can respond. Because this isn't the time to force feed. This is the time to offer presence over pressure, comfort over control, warm tea, favorite smells, soft music. Even if the body no longer accepts food, the soul still craves gentleness. And if you're the one who has felt this change in yourself, if food feels like a chore, if thirst has faded, if eating seems more like a memory than a need, I want you to know, you're not failing, you're transitioning. And that, too, deserves tenderness. Leave a comment below if you've noticed this shift, either in yourself or someone you love, with the words, "The hunger is fading." Let those who read it know they're not imagining things. They're seeing the quiet truth most people overlook. And if this resonated with your experience, like the video now, because this is how we stop pretending and start preparing with compassion. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. We're only beginning to explore what the body reveals when time is drawing near. In the next part, we'll talk about a sign that speaks not with words, but with energy. When the body starts sleeping more, and being awake begins to feel like too much. Stay close. We're walking into deeper waters, but we're walking together. There's a kind of sleep that comes near the end of life. It's not the restful sleep of recovery, not the deep sleep after a long day. It's a different kind of quiet, heavier, slower, deeper, and it often begins long before anyone calls it what it is. You notice it first in the mornings. They wake later. They're slower to respond. The coffee gets cold while they sit silently, not quite fully there. Then the naps begin, longer, more frequent. Not out of boredom, not from medication, but because their body is asking for more rest than ever before. Soon, they begin to drift off mid-conversation. The TV hums in the background, but they're no longer watching. They nod off in chairs they used to sit upright in. They forget what day it is, not out of confusion, but because time itself no longer feels urgent. And this is where it becomes painful for families. Because as their sleep increases, their alertness fades. They don't always hear you the first time. They don't always respond right away. Sometimes they close their eyes while you're still talking. And if you're not ready for it, you might take it personally. You might say, "Are you even listening to me?" Or, "Why are you sleeping so much lately?" But here's the truth. This isn't laziness. This isn't depression. This isn't indifference. This is the body doing something sacred. It is beginning to turn inward. It is conserving its remaining energy. It is letting go, slowly, gently, of the demand to stay fully present in a world that's already beginning to slip away. Because at the end of life, alertness isn't as important to the body as peace. And peace, for many, begins with sleep. Let me ask you gently. Have you watched someone you love start sleeping more than they're awake? Have you felt the shift from conversation to quiet, from presence to rest? If so, you're not imagining it. And no, you're not losing them all at once. But the letting go has begun. And it's okay to feel helpless, to wish they'd stay awake a little longer, to ache for one more lively conversation, one more story, one more laugh. But sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is to sit quietly beside them while they sleep, to hold a hand that doesn't squeeze back, to speak softly even if they don't respond, to understand that this slowness, this stillness, this closing of the eyes is not failure. It's transition. And if you're the one feeling this, if you found yourself wanting more sleep, losing track of time, closing your eyes not just out of exhaustion, but from a deeper kind of readiness, please know, you're not disappearing. You're preparing, and it's okay to rest. Leave a comment if this sign feels familiar, in you or someone close to you, with the words, "The sleep is becoming more than sleep." Because for some, naming it is the first step to understanding it. And if this part of the video touched something quiet inside you, something hard to name, like it now, because silence shouldn't be the only witness to this kind of change. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do that now. What we're sharing here isn't easy, but it's necessary, and it's helping people walk through one of life's hardest chapters with their eyes open and their hearts intact. Next, we'll talk about a sign that's not in the body, but in the way the person begins to speak, the words they choose, and the truths they may start revealing just before they say goodbye. Stay with me. The most meaningful signals are often spoken in whispers. There's a shift that happens in conversation, soft, subtle, and often overlooked. At first, it might seem like nostalgia. They start mentioning old memories more often, bringing up childhood stories, talking about their parents, referencing people who passed decades ago as if they'd just seen them. But slowly, the tone changes. The stories aren't just memories. They feel like preparation, like a quiet sorting of what mattered most, like a final gathering of meaning before letting go. You might hear phrases like, "I dreamed of my mother last night. She looked just like she did when I was young. I feel like it's almost time to go. I wonder what it will be like when I get there." Or simply, "I'm ready to go home." And they don't mean their house. They don't mean the old apartment or the place where the furniture still smells like them. They mean something deeper, something final. This kind of language isn't random. It's not confusion. It's spiritual readiness. In hospice and end-of-life care, this is known as life review. It's the mind and spirit's way of reconciling the journey, tying loose ends, revisiting people, places, and moments that left a mark. And often, it's when they speak with the most clarity, not confusion. They might bring up someone you thought they'd forgotten. They might say something profound, poetic even. Something like, "She's waiting for me. I think I'll see him soon." Or, "I just want peace." And it can be jarring. You might say, "Don't talk like that." Or, "You're going to be here for a long time." But behind your words is a quiet truth you're afraid to face. You hear it too. You feel it. They're not afraid. They're not panicked. They're preparing. Let me ask you, have you noticed someone close to you begin to speak more of the past than the present? Have they started referencing loved ones long gone, or spoken about home in a way that doesn't quite mean Earth anymore? If so, you may be witnessing one of the most sacred parts of life, the beginning of the soul's goodbye. And if you're the one speaking this way, if you found yourself dreaming vividly, remembering with intensity, feeling drawn to something beyond this world, please know, that's not something to be afraid of. That's something to be honored. It doesn't mean you've given up. It means you're looking beyond. And that's a part of dying most people are too afraid to talk about. But not here. Not in this space. Here, we hold space for that. So if you've heard these phrases before, or spoken them yourself, leave a comment with the words, "I felt the homecoming." Let others know that this is not just happening to them. It's part of a larger truth we all share. And if this sign touched you, if you're feeling the weight of a conversation you now realize was more than just memory, like this video now, because some words are not cries for help, they're farewells dressed in stories. And if you haven't subscribed yet, this is the time. The next sign we're going to discuss might be the hardest to face. When the body begins its final transition, and the skin, the breath, the movements, all begin to say goodbye in their own way. We're almost there, and you're not alone. Let's keep walking this path, gently, truthfully, together. There comes a moment, often late in the journey, when the body begins to speak in ways it never has before. Not with pain, not with shouting, but with stillness, with signs, with soft signals that the end is near. These changes don't always arrive in a rush. They come gradually, almost politely, as if the body itself is bowing out, one system at a time. And if you don't know what to look for, you might miss them. You might think it's just another bad day, a sign of fatigue, a medication side effect. But to those who've been close to death before, these are familiar markers, quiet flags waving at the edge of life. Let me name a few of them now. The skin begins to cool, first in the hands, the feet, then the legs. Circulation slows. The body protects its core. The tips of fingers and toes may take on a bluish or purplish hue. The temperature may fluctuate, warm one moment, chilled the next, and the blanket is never quite right. The breath changes. It becomes shallow, irregular. Sometimes there are long pauses, then gasps. Sometimes it sounds like rattling, not from struggle, but from the loosening of the body's grip on the breath itself. There may be restlessness, tugging at the sheets, picking at clothes, mumbling or moving in sleep, or the opposite, complete stillness, as if every movement now costs too much energy to be spent. Their eyes may not focus the way they used to. They may stare off at something you cannot see, and yet you feel it too, like they are already walking somewhere you cannot follow yet. And perhaps most noticeably, they begin to withdraw from food, water, and even the comfort of touch, not because they don't love you, but because they are already turning inward, listening to something no one else can hear, answering a call that doesn't come from this side of the world. And here's the hardest truth of all. You can't stop this. No amount of feeding, no rushing them to the ER, no pleading, stay a little longer. Because by the time these signs appear, the body has already made peace with what the mind and heart may still be fighting. But that doesn't mean there's nothing you can do. You can sit. You can hold their hand, even if it no longer squeezes back. You can speak softly, even if they don't respond. You can play music they once loved. Tell the stories you never got around to sharing. Say the words you would regret not saying. Because this part of the journey is not medical. It is sacred. Let me ask you, have you ever witnessed a loved one in this final physical chapter and only later realized what those subtle signs meant? Or are you seeing them now and quietly wondering if this is what letting go looks like? If so, leave a comment with the words, "I'm seeing the signs." Not because there's anything to fix, but because being honest, even here, is a way of honoring what's happening. And if this final sign broke something open in you, a memory, a moment, a name, like this video now, because too many people go through this in silence, thinking they're imagining it, when in truth, they're witnessing the most profound transition of all. And if you haven't yet, subscribe, because in the final section of this video, we're not going to talk about death anymore. We're going to talk about what to do with this knowledge, how to love better, how to say goodbye before it's too late, and how to make peace with the truth instead of hiding from it. Stay close. The most important part is next. You've made it through the signs, and maybe, right now, your heart is heavier than when we began. Heavier with memory, heavier with realization, heavier with the ache of truth, not because it surprised you, but because deep down, you already knew. Maybe you've seen the withdrawal, felt the silence, noticed the untouched meals, the extra hours of sleep, the eyes staring at something far away. Maybe you've heard the whispers of goodbye wrapped in old stories and names of the long departed. Maybe you've held a hand that didn't hold back. And now that you know what the signs mean, the question becomes, what do you do with this knowing? Because here's what no one teaches us. When you sense that someone may be nearing their final year, you don't fight the clock. You love differently. You stop postponing the visit. You stop waiting for the right words. You stop assuming there's time for later. Because later becomes never faster than you think. You start asking the questions you were afraid to ask. What do you need right now? Is there anything you want to say that you've never said? Who do you miss most? Is there something I can do that would bring you peace? You start listening, not just to their words, but to their pauses. You start showing up, not just in appointments, but in presence. You stop measuring love and effort and begin measuring it in quiet, in sitting beside someone while they sleep, in brushing their hair back when they forget who they are, in reading old letters aloud, in saying, "I love you" one more time, even if you've said it 1,000 times before. Because when you recognize the signs of the end, you stop trying to fix and start trying to honor. You begin to ask, how can I make this moment feel whole? How can I leave nothing unsaid? How can I help them feel like they are still here, even as they begin to slip away? And if you are the one feeling these signs in yourself, if this video has described your recent days, then I want to speak to you directly now. You are not fading. You are not a burden. You are not forgotten. You are arriving, slowly, sacredly, to the most honest part of your life. And even if no one has told you lately, you are still deeply loved. You are still a teacher, even now. You are still a light. If you've seen these signs in someone else, or lived them yourself, if this video felt more like a mirror than a message, leave a comment below that simply says, "I'm listening differently now." Because when we listen with understanding, we begin to love with intention. And if this journey through these signs has brought clarity, or tears, or just a little more courage. Like this video, not for vanity, but so more people can stop rushing past the truth and start walking through it. And subscribe if you haven't already, because each week we return to this space, not for answers, but for permission to say what hurts, to name what's holy, to love what we may soon have to let go. You don't get to control when the end will come, but you do get to decide how you show up before it does. So show up, fully, gently, now. Because the truth we're most afraid to speak is also the one that sets us free. That death is coming, but right now, life is still here. Let's live like we know that. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, keep noticing, keep loving, and keep listening.